If you guys are in the chat, एक बार बस hi बोल दो. Let's go, brother. We have the perfect panel in the line, and we have the perfect topic in the hand to discuss this particular panel on. ठीक है? We have all the collection of law students, CLAT aspirants, and all of the people, and we will go ahead with the particular discussion. ठीक है? You guys can see the screen. You guys can hear everybody's audio. एक बार बस सब लोग hi बोल दो.
I
प्रत्युष say
can't
hi.
see it
Ayush
on
say
my
hi.
phone, huh?
Hi.
Let's go.
Hello.
Let's go. Okay.
Okay, live stream chat is okay. Fine.
Yes. So it is streaming, but it is streaming on a different thing. जो हमारा पहले लिंक था उस पे नहीं हो रहा. ठीक है? But it's fine.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
अब आ जाएंगे.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. So specific to the discussion that we're gonna carry on today, ladies and gentlemen, is the WAQF debate. It is not a debate; it's a panel discussion, but we will say it as a debate because इस पे बहुत सारे ओपिनियंस है, बहुत सारे विचार है. इन सारे विचारों को एक साथ लाएंगे हम लोग और फिर उस पे बातचीत करेंगे. That is something that is very important in this particular discussion. To give introduction to the whole panel, I will start with Mr. Pratyush. Pratyush has been on the channel earlier. ठीक है? He is a student at OP Jindal and an amazing guy. Secondly, we have Manoj Adlani. He is in Gujarat National Law University. Bhai, correct me if I'm wrong anywhere. ठीक है? This is all the information that I know about you guys. So, and he's a perfect guy to be on this particular panel because considering the depth of the topic as well as what we'll discuss. ठीक है? Devesh Mishra will soon arrive. He is facing some network issues, so he will join later on. But he is in Raipur. That is his college name. And then we have Shivjani. He is in ILNU, as we all know. Shivjani is a dope guy in Ahmedabad circuit, and he is here for the discussion. We have Dhruvil. Dhruvil, as popular known as Hiroshi. He is a CLAT aspirant, and he is joining us as probably the youngest member in the panel, and he'll be discussing on the amazing topic. We have Ayush Rao. He is now in ILNU. Not many people know about this, but he'll also be joining us as a law student now in this particular panel. And let's go, guys. Let's go. Okay, perfect. So as we all know, देखो ये जो पहला है वहाँ पे हम सब अपने opening remarks देंगे for 1 minute. There is no time adherence, but try to stay as crisp and to the point as possible. I'll not try to interrupt you, but जहाँ पे जरूरत पड़ेगी वहाँ पे मैं करूँगा. First, on the basis of the topic and depth of the topic, I would encourage Ayush to go first, considering what I know he has prepared for it. So, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready? Are we ready?
Yes.
Perfect. Sure.
I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. Greetings, everyone. So, before starting, let us get a basic understanding of what WAQF or WAQF means for the viewers. Let's say a movable or immovable property is donated by a person who follows Islam for any purpose that is considered to be pious, religious, or charitable by the law of Islam. That property is considered to be a WAQF property. Now, there were a lot of controversies surrounding the bill, due to which an amendment bill was proposed by Kiran Rijiju in the parliament. And the most deliberated part of the bill was the clause 20 of the bill, which amended section 40 of the 1995 bill, which gave powers to the WAQF board to decide if the property is WAQF or not. Now, a question might arise to a lot of you that if section 40 of 1995 was built in good faith, why would an amendment be needed? Clearly and certainly because of the wide misuse of the vested powers to the stakeholders. Like, for example, in Tiruchendurai village, Tamil Nadu, the board claimed ownership of a 1500-year-old temple. Keeping in mind Islam itself emerged over 1400 years ago. And that is just one example. 18 villages in Tamil Nadu were claimed by WAQF board. In Yamunanagar, Haryana, a Gurudwara was claimed by the WAQF board. The Surat Municipal Corporation headquarters in Gujarat was declared a WAQF property. And the reasons that were given for these properties were also pretty inconclusive and baseless. Like, all these properties were used for Sarai ritual in Mughal era, which is why these are Islamic properties as they quoted. On top of that, the financial auditing also lacked transparency, and misallocation was a frequent event under these powers and authorities. Now there are a total of 44 amendments, and it won't be possible for me to discuss all of them, but I hope to discuss the key and salient amendments with the viewers, Nay, and the distinguished panelists. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you. Although the Islam claim can be said that on the land or the village where the Islamic or the mosque or temple is, it could be like conquered by an Islamic ruler and then after declared as WAQF. But I'll leave that discussion to the other panelists. I would want, I think, Devesh to go next because he has some good interesting points on this particular panel. Go ahead, Devesh.
Okay. So hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir. Go ahead.
Yes.
Hi, so sorry for my bad
No
connectivity.
problems.
Okay, so
Yes.
what I really want to go ahead with, primarily for the first part, is the more political aspect of the bill. Okay, so this is what my analysis has been in terms of my understanding of how the BJP has been acting post the crushing of what their expectations were with respect to the margin they will be having in the elections. So, because the election came as a shocker, they obviously need to pull off some measures. And those measures came in a sort of desperate manner, especially with respect to this bill. The entire concept of WAQF was something that was really controversial and was one of the primary right wing agendas for a very long time. Okay. Now, the thing with this is they've tried to play a game wherein there's sort of recorrecting their image and going back to the entire Hindutvawadi ideology with this the protectioneering of Hindus, and they've chosen a very nice person to play this job as well. Kiran Rijiju was in light quite recently for statements about beef consumption, wherein he said, and not said rather, but asserted that I am from Northeast. We eat beef. I will continue eating beef, and no one can stop me. So I think this aspect of it has forced BJP to go through a rushed legislation, and the allies of BJP, quite a lot. In fact, I think TDP is there. Then JDU, although Rajiv Ranjan did show his support for the bill in the parliament, as far as reports say, there has been some backdoor lobbying with respect
Okay.
to all of the members of the NDA alliance. Okay, they've
Okay.
been specifically going to BJP and telling them, let's not rush this legislation,
So try
and
to
which is
conclude
why
it,
I
right?
believe the government consented to it being pushed forward to the JPC.
Okay, very good points. First point was BJP's third term being weak. Then Kiran Rijiju, very interesting point. Then after the allies point, very good crisp thing. I would want Pratyush to go next because he is something related to this particular thing. Go ahead, Pratyush.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sneh. So I, in fact, have very similar points to Devesh here, which is talking about the context in which the legislation has been tabled. So the problem with the legislation is not the legislation itself particularly. Of course, there are certain things that are objectionable, but the problem is in how it is being approached and how it is being seen by everyone else. It has been sensationalized in a religious context, which there's two ways to see it. A is a religious context through an essential religious practice contest. The other one is it is complete property law, right?
Okay.
The other one, the amendments are related to such bureaucratic tasks that it can be placed that way. So there are two ways. Now, what somewhat the people, the media, the government, all of them have sensationalized it. The problem with sensationalizing is the context. Now, there is no hiding the fact that this government's rhetoric towards minorities has been shaky at best, right? Throughout the 10 years. Now, given this, minorities, especially the Muslim minority in the country, can look at an amendment like this and find themselves to be threatened yet again, right? And
Okay. Okay.
especially by a ruling establishment with no Muslim MP in either the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, right?
Okay.
So that is a very important context that I feel is missing. Other than that, I do not hold this view. I find that the amendment is largely good. You need an amendment in something like this. You can't have state power be diluted to such an extent. And I agree that it is an essential religious practice, but the scope of it can be narrowed. But it
Okay.
has to
Okay.
be narrowed in a correct sense.
Scope can be narrowed. Amendment was necessary. BJP has been shaky in terms of minority or whether it is a religious or a property related act or a bill. Very good points. Now I would want Dhruvil to go next, following to the other two. Dhruvil, go ahead.
Thank you, Sneh, for having me on this platform. So, the for the political aspect, when I say the Waqf board has been used very widely for a political appeasement. So, when I say this, just before the prior 2014 elections, before the commencement of the Model Code of Conduct, there were probably 123 properties in Delhi given to the Waqf board. Waqf board has been used very widely for a political appeasement of a particular minority, if we say, whether that minority be the second largest landowner of the India. And when you talk about the Waqf Act 1955, the act gave very absolute powers to the tribunal and the board. The section 51, if I read the section, that gave a very absolute power to the board, and that the decision of the board should be final. And when we talk about the entire village in Tamil Nadu being encroached by the Waqf board, the temple belongs to a Hindu community, and in the amendment bill, when they are adding non-Muslims in the bill, it is to be said that if we are encroaching a property that is not belong to the Muslims, we should have some people to be advocating for the temple. So that not having some non-Muslim people might be arbitrary for a fact. And if we talk about the Gujarat model, the political appeasement in currently Gujarat model, we have around 11,000 estates and more than 39,000 properties belonging to the Waqf, and 5,000 movable properties. And there are many cases pending in the High Court as well, for around 2,300. So the amendments were very needed. The introducing of the district collector as an arbitrator was indeed needed, and the addition of non-Muslims in the act was also needed. That's all.
Yeah, so I think Sneh might be
Sneh
facing
चला
some
गया.
prob. No, Sneh might be
Oh,
facing some problems. Either way, I think we can continue with Shiv or Manush here. Either
Manush sir or chef.
Manush sir or Shiv.
I
Manush
feel
sir.
I feel Shiv can go and I can some sort of sum up all of the
I feel
points
I
and then
feel
I
we
can
should wait for Sneh.
contextualize.
I feel we should wait for Sneh. Just let's wait a couple minutes.
yeah,
Arey, no
He's
worries,
back.
no
He's back.
worries.
He's back.
The
He's back.
stream
He's
was
No
back.
still
worries,
going on.
guys.
It is all
yeah.
perfect. Nothing to worry.
He's
Yes,
back.
yes.
He's back. Yeah,
Okay,
Shiv,
Dhruvel, I
I
heard
feel
your points because the stream was still going on. So I heard all of your points. It was pretty much amazing, although it was mostly counter to Pratyush's point, although it was contradictory to his points. That whether when he is saying that BJP is working for say, for example, Sheki in terms of minority, you are saying that Congress has been working for the appeasement of the minority. So very good point in that particular stances, and the other points which were very much in match with Ayush, but were like improvement in terms of additions. I will go to Shiv Jani for more substantive point on this particular discussion. Very good points by Dhruv. Go ahead, Shiv.
Hello everyone, Shiv Jani here. Whatever I say in this debate, please don't hold it against me, not my personal beliefs. With that, starting off, firstly, I think that I'll agree somewhat with Devesh when we talk about bringing in this work fact at this particular point of time when BJP is losing its biggest vote bank, which is the Hindu majority. When BJP lost in Ayodhya, this was definitely a cry for help that they needed to unite their majority vote bank. This is like probably MCU bringing back Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man as a cry for help. Uh, Direct analogy. Now let's try and understand the jurisprudential genesis of the Waqf Act. The Waqf Act of 1954 was brought about in order to deal with the properties of the Muslims that were left in India after partitions. That is the properties of those Muslims who went to Pakistan and their properties were here. So it was about trying to distribute those properties equitably and judiciously. It evolved and evolved in 1995 and in 2013. What it essentially did was that it tried to create a provision for Muslims to donate their property. Now that very provision has been used as an electoral gimmick a lot of times. For example, in 2013, when Congress right before the elections donated around 123 Waqf properties in central Delhi to the Waqf board. So those Waqf properties which became Waqf properties in a way that was an electoral gimmick was wrong. So this entire act is being used politically. But when we talk about the amendments, definitely the amendments were needed. Why? Because after the railways and the defense sector, defense ministry's property, Waqf property is the third large, like Waqf board is the third largest property holder in India. So why is one particular religion having such large amount of property? That is a question that we need to discuss. And then when we talk about this Waqf property being donated, the new amendment also has a provision that a person who has been a Muslim for 5 or more years, only he can dedicate Waqf property. So essentially, this also curbs religious conversions which are done in the name of getting benefits from Waqf board. And the preposterous section 40 of the previous act has also been changed for the better, according to me, because
Okay.
that section gave
Okay.
sweeping powers along with section 28 and 29 of the
Okay.
1995 act. So
Okay.
that is a welcome change, according to me.
Done perfectly. Amendments were good, much needed amendments. Delhi donation point, and it is not just sorry. Okay, Ayush, no worries. Okay, specific to the chairs that are rolling in, it's very interesting to see this one. You guys can see the chat, right? Okay. Yes, in
Yes,
between
yes.
also, in between only I recognize that uska andar ka sashi zarur जाग चुका है. But very good points in terms of what you said, and it was a very good introduction to the whole thing. Now I would like to go into the substance from Manoj bhai. Go ahead, Manoj bhai.
Thank you so much, Sneh and the team for having me here. Thank you so much for inviting me all together. So yes, hello everyone. This is Manush Ashok Kumar Dadlani, and I am currently a third year law student. This bill, जो essentially इसको bring in किया गया है, can be taken as a political gimmick. From the if we take it from a non BJP site, अगर हम इस चीज को देखें, it looks like a political gimmick. It may be a political gimmick, but now things that we need to focus more upon is the amendments proposed and what is the legislative intent. So fair enough, even if we say कि party का intent क्या है, political intent क्या है, as a law student I would first go on to check what is the legislative intent of the parliament, which
Okay,
actually
very interesting.
is the place जो सोचे हुए काम को एग्जीक्यूशन में लाने की ताकत रखती है. ठीक है. So I'll be putting forward few amendments that I basically came across. You'll just allow me थोड़ा सा time. Basically few amendments जो है उसमें इस्लाम का जो definition जो है practicing इस्लाम का, उसको section 3R में change कर दिया है, which
Okay,
gives
yes.
some sort of a bracket for a person to at least be a Muslim for 5 years and then choose to, with his whole heart and sort of mind to donate the property. कि जो आपका कन्वर्जन और प्रोसेलिटाइजिंग मोमेंट है, उसके थ्रू जो प्रॉपर्टी ले देते हैं ना आपकी, कि भाई आपको कन्वर्ट कर करके आपको प्रॉपर्टी ले ली जाएगी थ्रू फोर्स एंड थ्रू बाय अदर मींस, उसको कर्टेल करा जा रहा है. दैट इज द इंटेंट ऑफ द लेजिस्लेचर. Ultimately second जो है, which now it is getting a little bit more feminist color into it, that there's more representation of women, because at
Representation.
times we have seen that in such amendments and in such legal provisions, when it was left to the personal law boards to govern, वहां पे women representation बहुत कम था. So women donating their own property, taking their own
Okay.
decisions itself is an empowering move. It can be
Okay.
seen, can be and
Okay.
cannot be. ऐसे बहुत सारे अमेंडमेंट्स हैं. पार्लियामेंट्री डिबेट उसको ये कहता है that all of it fair enough, but who gave the power to legislature to step into the shoes of a religious order का practice? And
Okay.
by that very nature it goes against article 25 and 26.
Okay. So, sir,
concluding
conclude,
concluding my
please.
remark, Sneh, BJP now has two things. The government, in fact, has two things. First, the community connect of BJP जो 2019 से फेल होता जा रहा है. जब से CAA आया है तब से, I mean, maybe the policies would have been bright as diamond, but भाजपा का एक प्रॉब्लम सबसे ज्यादा खराब है कि वो ये समझते हैं कि हम अच्छा करेंगे ना, तो लोगों को ये मान के चलना चाहिए कि हम अच्छा कर रहे हैं.
Okay. Very interesting.
बाबा
Very
एक पार्ट को तुम पे भरोसा ऑलरेडी है ही नहीं, तो तुमको उनको भी कन्विंस करना पड़ेगा कि हम आपके लिए अच्छा कर रहे हैं. सो दिस ईगो गुडनेस जो है उसको छोड़ना पड़ेगा कहीं ना कहीं.
Done.
एंड इंटेंट वर्सेस कम्युनिकेशन को कंप्लीट करना पड़ेगा.
Done.
वरना देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी दैट पार्टी पॉलिटिक्स मे and will manipulate this chance to turn the whole Muslim vote bank against BJP.
Against BJP. Okay, so specific to the remarks or any other remarks made by anyone in their particular agendas, any questions? Let's take question first, then after we'll come again to the remark round.
Yeah.
Any questions?
So
Yes, please, Pratyush.
yeah, it's not particularly a question, but I mean it's a general question to everyone.
Okay.
That we saw that there was a lot of talk on corruption, right, and on how these tribunals have gotten very corrupt. But the answer cannot just be to abolish it and place all the power, the same arbitrary power, with the collector, who is also technically a nominee of one of the parties in a lot of these cases, which is the government. So, if we are to, wouldn't it be better for us to make the process of a tribunal more simple, less corrupt, add certain other provisions rather than
Okay.
just switch it up?
I think I'll answer
Just a
this
second.
in part.
I will. Okay, okay. Go ahead, Shiv. Then I'll answer
Yes.
this as well, if
So,
possible.
firstly, there's a very short answer to the corruption. I think a very salient provision introduced by this bill is that the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, which is a constitutional position, that office or that person is going to appoint an individual from his own capacity in order to audit the entire expenses as well as the receipts of the Waqf
Yeah,
board, so that it is a more
CAG.
transparent it is in a more transparent manner. The opacity can be curbed. And as far as the tribunalization is concerned, as per section 85 of the previous 1995 legislation, what happened was that the decision of the Waqf tribunal was final. So it went against the two core principles of natural justice, which is odi alteram partem
Yes,
and nemo judex ex
yes,
causa sua.
yes,
So, which means that hear the other person out, and no one should be a judge in their own case. Now, the tribunal's composition was all Muslim, so essentially they were judges in their own case, and odi alteram partem was violated in that way that that it was not that there was no appealability. Now there
okay.
is a provision of appeal till 90 days. So both those problems are
Yes,
being
very
solved with
good.
this new bill.
And also, not only appeal in 90 days, they have to announce it in newspaper as well as other the website
Of
or
course,
whatever
yeah.
will be
Okay,
made
okay.
later on. So those announcements also need to be made in the same particular area where the encroachment of the claim is being happening. So that is a very good
Hmm.
point in that particular
No,
point.
also adding on to what Shiv said is very valid, but the whole conception dwells around that what authority is the collector right now assuming.
Yes, that was the
So
main question.
the main question here you need to address is collector assuming a quasi judicial authority? Is
He
he
is.
just an executive, or his powers increasing to a more of a quasi judicial authority
Yes,
on whose report the decision will be made by the board so as
Divesh,
to
you have a
put the
counter on
property
this?
in the claims or not?
Go ahead,
So we
Divesh.
need to debate upon the
Done, done.
legislative intent is yet not clear about the collector's authority. Like, is he given a quasi judicial authority?
Okay, okay, Divesh, your counter to this.
Okay, yeah, adding on to the points that have already been
So your
made.
voice is not that clear. I think your earphone is
Hello,
not connected to the
am I
laptop.
audible now? Hello,
You're audible very less. You can be loud a
hello,
little bit, so that
am I
might be
audible?
audible.
Probably get closer to your device.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
No, you're not, sir.
Hello. Okay, wait, I'll
No,
wait a minute, let someone else
he
take it
No
is.
up, then
problem.
I'll.
I have one particular question on the same. No problem, sir. You take your time. I have one particular question to this particular thing where Manu said that representation of women happened, but the another representation, which was something very interesting, was the non-Muslim representation in this
Hmm.
particular thing. Collector question still implies, and we will discuss on this. But the one question that I want to impose on this panel is, what about the non-Muslim representation? कि जहाँ पे people were saying earlier कि they took from interested to the other point that was aggravated, which also includes non-Muslim people. So encroachment may you include non-Muslim people, and now instead of removing that, you are including non-Muslims in the panel itself in the name of making it more diverse. Something
Sneh,
that was
Sneh,
So
if
so
you could
I
repeat your
would.
question, I got
yes.
disconnected for a second.
Okay, just a second. We'll first address the collector point, and then after we'll come to that. I think. Go ahead, Devish.
Hi, am I audible now?
Still low, but you can continue. I think.
Okay, so coming to the collector point, on a personal note, now this is a huge lacuna, the point Manush addressed. Okay, it's a really big lacuna that has to be put forth because the authority that a quasi judicial body has
is quite more substantive than that what an executive body will forever have. The simple reasoning to this being the fact that a decision making power, uh, when compared to, let's say, a surveying power, the surveying cannot even be called a power, right? There is a scope of mismanagement which can alter the decision making, but surveying is technically not a power, it is more of a, let's say,
Yes,
responsibility.
very
So
good point.
when you look at it from a bureaucratic purview, you need to understand that there is a very it kind of can serve to be a nuisance the moment you involve the circle of bureaucracy into the circle of religious administration, because this goes to 26, right? And religious administration is purely and purely autonomous. अगर मैं मुस्लिम हूँ, मेरा मुस्लिम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, तो मेरा सारा एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन मुस्लिम ही होगा। यहाँ सेक्युलरिज्म नहीं आता। एंड इवन इफ यू लुक एट द इंडियन अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ सेक्युलरिज्म, इट इज नॉट लाइक द यूरोपियन अंडरस्टैंडिंग दैट
Yes,
यू
separation of power
सेपरेट
नहीं है, it is
सेपरेटिंग।
involvement and making it
हाँ,
equal. Very
इन
good
सिंपल
point.
वर्ड्स सर्वधर्म संभाव, ठीक है।
Yes, yes, yes.
एंड
But
एडिंग
yes,
ऑन टू
very good point that surveys के लिए use किया जाता है, but other thing is joint secretary का भी involvement है, which is something
exactly,
that will
and
not
I want
never
to
go
actually
against
want to
collective.
add on one thing.
Pratyush, just sorry
Sneh,
Devesh, we'll have to
अच्छा,
address Pratyush.
No,
Go ahead, Pratyush.
no, it's okay. I just wanted to address the fact of the non-Muslim inclusion and the representation.
Yes,
So
let's go ahead.
I believe that I think here the quantity of the land that the Waqf board has comes into play.
Okay.
I mean, the quantity of land that they have, the sheer area that they cover, I think it requires some representation of non-Muslim members. Question is
Okay.
in what capacity? And that is also something that I would like to open for discussion, because I think the capacity of representation matters a lot. Is it, do they have the power to vote and help in the decision making, or should they just be limited to advising and to see how things are going, right?
Okay.
What is
Okay.
the value of their persuasion is the question here.
Okay, perfect. Ayush, Hiroshi, if you guys have any
One
point,
more,
raise your
one
hand
more
so that
point
we
that I
know. Go ahead, Ayush.
one more point that I would like to add to Pratyush's point, except for the fact that they hold a lot of land, like 3 Delhi's worth of land that this board holds. Except for that point, it is also about transparency. We have to address the importance of transparency. There could be, let us be real, personal biases to a certain extent when taking these decisions,
Okay.
and which is one of the reasons why the inclusion of other religions is also important. On top of that, to
Okay.
answer Pratyush's question, here I think they should be limited to advising rather than decision making in this case. At the
Yes.
end of the day, we have to realize the whole reason for them coming into here is, on the first place, was inclusion, was to give them an ability to participate, not to take
But
decisions.
sir, they are in central as well
Precisely.
as state. So that does
Yes,
not only
central
mean they are advisory, they play a very crucial role in terms of decision making also.
But again, that is the thing, Sneh. Advising can also play a crucial role in decision making. It
Which
is
it should
what
not in
we
the
think,
particular case.
our understanding of what is important, what is not, is tangibility and intangibility. So if I take a decision and the tangible outcome of it is only considered to be important, but what is intangible going behind it, advising and discussing and deliberating on that particular issue, that is just important and
Okay.
significant. That is what
Okay.
we fail to understand and
Although
realize.
the panel will never be present when it comes to a particular discussion happening, the whole panel in terms of many retired judges, joint secretary, all of them might not be present. But it's a very good point that they are advisory to the particular thing. So especially when it is a problem of a non-Muslim, the presence of those people is very important in that particular cases. So very good point. I agree to this
Also,
point. Having non-Muslim is a good point, but yes.
just can I
Okay,
just
and
add
I'll
one
take
very small
this.
thing? I'm sorry, Manoj.
How
Can I
go
just
ahead,
add very
Pratyush.
small
Go
thing?
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
It's also on 25 and 26. I think that there is certain encroachment in the words that we're using. Certain government involvement should be sanctioned just because of the scope of the act. It's the same thing with Hindu temples and everything. So I think certain involvement is important. Question is whether that is affecting the way that they go about things and the ability to go about that act of donating their land. So I
Uh,
think 25 and 26 are not completely outraged in the way that people think they may be.
and Sneh, one thing to add, I would like to
Yes.
add.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
when talking about the non-Muslims thing, currently in the model of India, we have over 8,70,000 immovable properties of Waqf. And the previous 1955 Waqf Act included a person who knew Muslim jurisprudence or law in the act, in the panel. And when a person who knows that the jurisprudence of Muslim in the panel, that would be very arbitrary when we advocate a property of someone non-Muslim. That person who knew the jurisprudence and law of Muslim would be, in my personal beliefs, be arbitrary to the person who
But
is
sir,
a
that has been
non-Muslim.
removed. The very interesting fact is that has been removed.
So
Go
that's
ahead,
what
To
I'm
Devesh.
that,
saying,
You have
that
a sorry, Manush Bhai and Devesh. You guys,
Also, I'd like to add. Okay,
yes,
okay. After them. After them.
हाँ,
no problem.
okay,
Oh,
yes.
let them. Shiv, if you have something to say, वो एक बार
Go
में ही
ahead,
बोल दो
Shiv.
so
Go
that
ahead. You
you know.
have a
हाँ,
constitution book
okay,
with
sure.
you. You of course have something to add.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Shiv.
go ahead, of course.
No, it's not really related to the constitution. It's just a judicial precedent that I came across, which was Radhakrishnan versus state of Rajasthan, wherein the Supreme Court held that a person who is non-Muslim, whether he be a Christian, Hindu, Sikh, Parsi, or of another religion, and he is in possession of a certain property, his title cannot be put in jeopardy simply because it is included in the list of Section 5.2. So it is Section 5.2 of the 1995 legislation contains a list of properties under the Waqf board. So what the Waqf board previously did was that the previous Waqf board had powers regarding there's a famous quote regarding chor bhi hum,
Huh.
thanedar bhi hum, or न्यायाधीश bhi hum.
Yes. The
So
Tribunal
the
Act.
new provision regarding this extreme power being given to the district collector is also something which is slightly flawed. Why? Because this same kind of power has been
Judiciary and
accorded to the
bureaucracy.
district collector, and that district collector might just be answerable to the government that is there at hand. So there is
Very
always the
good point.
possibility of misuse of power
Yes.
whenever we talk about it.
Although not
And
related to the quotations.
the good thing about the state level Waqf board here is that the board must have two non-Muslim members, at least one member from each of the Shia, Sunnis, and backward classes of Muslims,
Okay.
and it also must have a member from the Bohra and Aga Khani
Yes,
communities
Aga Khani. Very
if
good.
they have the Waqf in that state. So that is a good provision according to me, and
Yes.
I will agree with Pratyush. I had the same point regarding 26, so I'll agree with what he said.
Yes. And also different committees for both of those
Yes.
minorities.
What
Go ahead, Manush.
what is the lacuna here is that there is nothing for Pasmanda Muslims. So
I mean,
that
how much
that
can we cover? But it's fine. Go
yes,
ahead,
yes,
Manush.
yes.
ओके थैंक यू सो मच सो करंटली मेरे पास कुछ क्वेश्चंस है जिनको मैं अगर सेट डाउन करूं तो फर्स्ट इज व्हाई इंक्लूजन ऑफ नॉन मुस्लिम्स इन द कमिटी ठीक है सो वी नीड टू मेक इट श्योर दैट इवन इफ वक्फ इज अ रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिस एंड इवन इफ इट कम्स अंडर द एम्बिट ऑफ आर्टिकल 25 26 उसका सबसेट हो जाता है even if it comes under article 25 article 25 has restrictions called morality public order and then there is a third restriction if I may and health so basically what happens at times is that public morality के चलते या public order के चलते the state can intervene and has to intervene as a duty so at lot of times this is not just a religious sort of
Matter. Yes.
practice it is more of a constitutional practice thank god इंदिरा गांधी अगर इनका ये बात कर रहे हैं thank god इंदिरा गांधी removed right to property from fundamental rights and put it under 300A वरना अगर वक्फ का क्लेम आता तो वो सीधा हाई कोर्ट या सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाता अंडर राइट टू प्रॉपर्टी रिट के
Hmm.
थ्रू
And that
so
would
the
be literally privatization of the land.
exactly so the not just privatization but the whole conception is that right to property जैसे हाथ में आ रहा है आपको ये भी समझना पड़ेगा that this emanating out of constitution the panel needs to be diverse यही यहां पर एक पॉइंट आ रहा है
हाँ.
जहां तक रही बात आपकी दैट व्हाई इट इज बिकमिंग अ सेक्युलर इशू land laws are civil laws which are common for everyone by inherent nature it is a secular law applied to all Indian citizens it will be a secular law
Okay.
because it is quite an intersection of religion plus land laws ठीक
Okay.
है तो ये इंटरसेक्शन को आपको बहुत अच्छे से डील करना पड़ेगा
Okay.
बट पॉइंट हियर इज ट्रिब्यूनल्स का जो पावर है उसमें एक बहुत बेहतर चेंज है दैट ट्रिब्यूनल्स के जो ऑर्डर है आप उसको आप चैलेंज कर सकते हो so one of it comes out so even if your
Section
collectorate
40.
sort of
Very nice.
yeah even if your collector report which is given अगर उसको भी अगर आपको problematic feel हो रहा है that you are feeling that the collector's report is not good the the waqf board itself can challenge it provided the collector does not sit on the report as an executive head for 11 years, and then this civil law ka limitation act or something applies and says कि ओ भाई अब तो 11 साल हो गया, it has become a norm under civil law, अब एक काम करो आपकी property गई. That should not be the case. So the collector's powers needs to be very much defined. If there is no
Yes.
definition of power, the collector can go to the highest of the extent to misuse the power.
But sir, I think
Second,
point
yeah, go
18
ahead.
of the amendment had all the collector power very well defined, I think. Although his duties might not have been defined and frameworks could have been in terms of accountability as well as post
No, so
decision
where
punishments.
where am I where am I emanating my argument is when you specifically refer to section 3C का amendment, उसका clause 2 जो है ना वो ये बोल रहा है in dispute. So what happens at times is the government can notify at any point of time being the land to be the government's land.
To
So
be the
the
government
government
property.
take away your land. So what I'll do is to surpass. So for an example, if for an example, from the very leftist point of view, that BJP is a Hindu sarkar, let it be. Now, what it goes to do is basically they put Kashi and Kashi ka jo land, disputed land hai, under a government property by the very virtue of the section which says that any property before and after, any government property before and
Yes.
after this act under the वक्फ is not more a वक्फ property, it is a government property by nature. और जब तक उस पर dispute resolve नहीं हो जाता, it will be deemed to be a not a government property.
So this gives a lot of power to the Babu log,
This
as
gives a
you
power
like
to the government कि वो वाले जो land है, मंदिर वाला disputed land है, उसको घुसा दे सीधा गवर्नमेंट लैंड की कैपेसिटी में, और फिर उसके बाद सीधा जाके वो कलेक्टरेट में अपील करे.
Yes,
Because
but
it is a
Basis of
government
Worship Act does
disputed land.
come up in between. That both side is not understanding that particular scenario. We'll come to that
Yeah.
later on. Let's
Yeah.
not come to the
Manush,
Basis of
on
Worship
the
Act. Go ahead.
point of
I'd
a
like to
collect,
add
sorry.
this one little thing first about the legislative intent of both the different acts. So, why exactly is this a welcome provision? Is because the previous Waqf Act was infamous for encroachment of the properties under Section 40, which were deemed to be Waqf properties. The
Hmm.
welcome change here, in Section 18 of the amendment bill, is suggested an amendment in Section 36 of the Principal Act, which says that no Waqf deed shall be donated by a person without a valid Waqfnama. Waqfnama
Waqfnama,
is a written document which
written
states that a
document.
person is willingly donating his property in the name of Allah, in the name of their God. What
A deed sheet is
previously
required.
existed in the provision was that you can donate a property through an oral agreement as well. Now, some
Agreement.
people might say that this goes against the Indian Contract Act 1872 and draw analogies that a contract
No,
can
it
be
does not. It's a
made
stupid
even
argument.
orally. But yeah,
But yeah, I think
yeah,
that not
just
only
just
that,
just
before and
just a
after
sec.
both, to
Yes.
add on to your point.
So
So
this
that
might
is
create a sort of mutual Schadenfreude between
yeah.
people, but then
Yes.
this is
Before that,
But
something
then
which
Pratyush, you can
Shiv,
go
is
ahead next.
for
Shiv, Shiv,
pious
Shiv, Shiv,
purposes.
Shiv.
Yes.
If
Just
you go to
Manoj,
the nuances of transfer of property act, transfer of property का जो registration है,
Hmm.
अगर आपने उसको ट्रांसफर करा है तो देयर आर स्पेसिफिक वेज ऑफ ट्रांसफरिंग द प्रॉपर्टी.
हाँ,
उसमें रजिस्ट्रेशन एक्ट के अंडर अगर 100 रुपए से ज्यादा की कीमत है तो आपको रजिस्टर करवाना है. But this is a donation, this is a charity
gift,
which
gift.
which need not, no, it's not even a gift, it's not a hiba. Waqf is not a hiba, waqf is a donation.
Yeah, yeah,
Hiba
yeah, yeah.
and waqf are a very different thing
Huh.
altogether.
So that is
Awqaf.
the second point
So
in
the
itself
So
out of
you
that was
can
propensity of
the
this
surpass, you
donation
can surpass the
hereditary
is very high.
registration.
That's the
hereditary
issue.
gift was something very. But go ahead,
You
Since
Pratyush,
it
you
can,
had something.
happens on a written basis,
yeah,
it is
yeah,
protected
yeah.
that the
No, no, no,
person
it
who
is
Yes,
not
donates his
written.
yes.
property, it will be going into the right hands for the
It
right
is actually better
purposes.
than the earlier one. That's simple
Fair
thing.
enough, but the better
Yes.
part is that you will at least have written agreement of waqf deed ka provision that
Yes,
all
yes.
of it goes through papers. So even the
Okay,
government sanctions that property. और
okay,
अगर उसमें भी आपको डिस्प्यूट है तो उसका 2 साल का आपको लिमिटेशन पीरियड दिया है कि 2 साल के
okay,
अंदर अंदर आप एक सूट लॉन्च कर सकते हो.
okay.
स्कोप
Pratyush,
जहां
go
नहीं
ahead
था
next.
उसका 2 साल का सूट
Yeah.
दिया है.
Yeah,
या
no,
Yes,
no. I think a couple of things I just want to
कर ले
put
समराइज कर ले बहुत
forth.
डेप्थ में चले गए हम.
No, no, हाँ, I think we need to come back to the basics, right? We need to
Yeah.
come back to whether the collector should be involved at all. We are discussing whether in what capacity he is involved. I have a question about whether he should be involved at all, because even the Sachar
Who
committee
better?
report, huh?
Who better?
No, so that is what I'm. First of all, before that, let us establish why not the collector.
Yes, do
So
that.
such a yeah, so such a committee report also said that the government also has a lot of disputes with
The
the Waqf
bureaucracy.
board. Yeah,
Acha, oh.
and no, with the Waqf board and in
Okay.
the way in who owns the land, right? There are a lot of disputes that are not just to an individual but between the Waqf board and the government, and whether it is the government's land or not. So in that case, involving a bureaucrat is is a question whether you are using, whether one of the parties itself helping in the judgment, right? because because to any extent I don't think that should happen. Further, I saw a couple of chats about the fact that Hindu temples are being taxed and such and such. So I think just for the, it's not that it's needed in the panel, it's been discussed at all, but I think we should get out of this delusion that in some way a reduction or a modification in a Muslim's right is a win for a Hindu.
Is a win
I
for
don't.
Hindu. Go.
That is
Damn
not.
good point.
That is not.
Damn good point.
That is not a concept that we should be dealing with in the Waqf Act. That is not the point of it. As Manush said, it is to an extent inherently secular in a way that it is being governed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So that is all I
In its
wanted
own
to add.
definition.
In its own
As the
definition.
chat is saying, Gandhian secularism. But go ahead. We'll come up
Oh,
to Devesh
Sneh,
or
Sneh, Sneh,
sorry,
Sneh,
Ayush, you have
Sneh.
some
I'll
point.
have to intervene a little bit on a point and then
Me as well
Try
after
to keep it
Manush.
crisp as much as
that
possible.
that
Absolutely.
we need not put Gandhian secularism coming into picture because
It was just a side note.
it has nuances. It's a lot of
Of course.
nuances with regards to land. ठीक है?
No, no,
फिर
of course.
Gandhi believed in lot of dan. Gandhi believed
Sir,
in a village
EBSA to
economy.
be taken off record on an informal note. Go ahead. Sir. Ayush, you can go ahead.
So yeah,
One more thing that I would
After
like
Ayush,
to add.
I'd like to go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, sir.
yeah, no worries.
Huh.
So one more thing that I would like to add here is that Asauddin Owaisi, for example, stated in Parliament that it is this amendment is a direct violation of Article 15. So one question here is that could it go both ways? So due to the lack of representation in the Waqf Council, may it be central or state, could Article 15 be violated there also? That due to this particular act, one particular religion is being targeted. First of all, a second question would be: could the clause 5 of Article 15 that states that any clause of Article 15 shall not prevent the state from making any special provision by law for the for the advancement of any social or educationally backward classes of citizens.
Try to keep it
So
crisp.
what the government here essentially trying to do here is bring advancement from the backward classes of Muslim as stated by Shiv under clause 32, amending
Okay.
section 69 of the previous act,
Okay.
and giving opportunities to Bohras and Sunnis and all the other backward classes. On top of that, it is also trying to prevent, to a certain extent, the
Try
violation
to
of the
conclude.
rights of Hindus here too.
yeah.
Okay.
Ayush,
Okay.
It is
Okay,
Just a
Ayush.
second.
Ayush,
Manush bhai,
just,
Manush bhai, please,
Ayush.
please. Go
just
ahead,
a
Yeah, go
Devesh.
ahead.
Just a
Go
second.
ahead.
Devesh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go
yeah,
ahead.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Devesh, go ahead.
Wait. So to go, I wanted to talk about what Ayush mentioned. Okay,
Go ahead.
I had a
Be a bit loud if possible,
Hi,
Devesh.
so I
Ekdam
wanted
जोर
to
से.
talk
हाँ.
about what Ayush said. Add another point, but this is quite interesting. So when you look at the other way around implementation of what 15 says, right? So we need to look at 15 as a general provision, and in contrast, 26 as a special provision under the concept of lex specialis. So 26 will always override what will 15 say because of the concept of positive discrimination existing again under 14 and the entire umbrella right
Okay.
of
Make your point.
equality.
Make your point. Yes.
Okay, so my point here be that this is a special administrative power, a religious administrative power endowed to Muslims via the act, which is not
Okay.
something unconstitutional. And I really believe it's a overall, मतलब to colloquially say it, ये opposition ने खौआ बना रखा है कि
हाँ.
कुछ भी होता है तो unconstitutional बोल दो, it will be just the easiest escape for us. There is no
Yes.
hand
True,
and leg to
true.
the
If
argument.
there is no change in
Very true.
constitution, why is the legislation for? To be very
Exactly.
Exactly.
honest, yes. Very good point. Shiv, you go next.
Yes.
Quickly.
So
I'll
when
come
we
to you,
talk
Pratyush,
about
next.
when Pratyush talked about completely Muslims being there in the Waqf board versus people of all different religions being there in the Waqf board and different Waqf councils that are created under the act, there is a classic debate that comes up whether there should be a person of a secular nature in an institution that is inherently religious. When we draw a parallel with Hindu temples, for example, when we talk about that, when we talk about how there are certain religious practices in temples that For example, women cannot, put sindoor on Hanumanji because Hanumanji was a brahmachari. So you have to maintain that distance from Hanumanji, and Article 14 cannot apply there in terms of equality because of the religious nature of that temple. Sabrimala case might be inconsistent with that, okay, but that is the religious norm that is followed. What we essentially need to do is that we need to create a bridge between the secular institutions and religious institutions. Why is Waqf board an exception? Because Waqf board is something that is in power to take the properties of other religions. For example, as Ayush mentioned in the very beginning, that a 1500-year-old
Hmm.
temple in Tamil Nadu was taken. So the Waqf board is
Other
not something
religions,
which is
yes.
addressing something which is Muslim. It is something which is common to us all.
But it
That
could
is
be
why.
removed, no, sir. Instead of amending and including non-Muslims, although the point of having the
So
amount of land was very good, but removing the
Sneh,
non-Muslim
I will
claim could have been better amendment than this, I think.
listen, Sneh,
Yeah.
I'll have to clarify this. Now, the problem with this act here is that this
Be
act
quick, sir.
is very this act is very, two-faced act. It deals with waqf in the case of donation as well. It deals with waqf property land in the dispute as well. दो चीजें हैं साथ
Yes.
में. तो
Okay, Pratyush, go ahead.
आपको
Please
जब
continue.
बात
So sorry.
करना है, हाँ हाँ चलो ठीक है, we'll clarify this that there's a clear distinction we need to make. The only problem here is that आपका जो appointment of secular institution है, it is only in the case of disputes, not in the
Hmm.
case where you have to give a donation to waqf, not
Hmm.
at all. तो उसका सेक्युलर होना इनहेरेंटली इसीलिए ऐसा है, एंड दैट इज कमिंग फ्रॉम किरण रिजिजू का आर्ग्यूमेंट एज वेल, दैट इट
Hmm.
इज वक्फ इज नॉट अ रिलीजियस डोमिनेशन, it's not a religious denomination, and it does not thereby fall under article 25 and
Hmm.
26.
So we are
Moreover,
concluding the
Now,
commission as well as the board and the act. They are two very separate. The board is
Agreed,
yeah,
religious
agreed
exactly,
with
matter.
Manav.
The
exactly,
act
एक
is a
dispute.
constitutional matter, or legal matter. Very good point.
So देखो
Sir,
स्नेह,
sir, let's
एक
go to
आपको
Pratyush now.
पावर दे
So
रहा
sorry.
है, हाँ हाँ ओके, डिस्टिंक्शन मेड. एक एक्ट का जो पार्ट है वो आपको पावर दे रहा है कि भाई तुम ये करो.
हाँ.
दूसरा पार्ट है वो ये पावर दे रहा है कि डिस्प्यूट है तो कैसे रिजॉल्व करो. इन
Okay.
दोनों को अगर आप अलग से डिबेट में लाओगे स्नेह, तो दिस डिबेट विल गो मोर फ्रूटफुल. मेक अ
हाँ, हाँ,
डिस्टिंक्शन.
हाँ. Okay.
yeah.
We'll of course have the
Now,
discussion in mind. Go
of
ahead,
course.
Pratyush.
So I have two things that I want to bring up, which goes back to my initial opening remarks as well. First of all, to MP Sauddin Owaisi's point, obviously it is naturally going to be about the Muslims, right?
Hmm.
You can't claim that it is targeting when the entire act is made for a particular religion, right? That is number one. Number two, I think the reason for the outrage that this has caused is not deliberating with the stakeholders themselves before tabling this, right? So I find this to be not right on the part of the government. And I think this also comes to what Devesh and Shiv said about the fact that it is an NDA government now, not a BJP government. So the old practices of 2019, where a bill was just smashed through, that is not possible. So they need to come out of this slumber and have the stakeholders discuss this. Now I agree that the bureaucracy that governs these Waqf bodies are corrupt. I'm not saying no. But I am saying that give an opportunity to the community that this governs to make additions before you table it. There are lot many things that they find objectionable. Now you and me sitting here can't be the best arbiter of whether these objections are right or otherwise, right? So that transparency that is required in such an act, we are saying that not implementation of act otherwise, while legislating on such an act, while presenting such a bill, I think there needs to be a um level of conversation that has not taken place, which is causing the outrage and the sensationalization. Be the best arbiter of whether these objections are.
Go, Pratyush.
Hello.
Pratyush, I'm coming back
Yeah.
to Sneh. You are perfectly audible.
Just a second. Sorry, my PC just got shut down. ऐसे
No, no,
एकदम
no
बंद ही हो
issues.
गया वो.
No issues.
ठीक
No,
है,
the
सब
point.
आज ही होगा भाई. सारे प्रॉब्लम्स मेरे को बस आज ही आ जाए.
Fair enough. Chalo,
Fast
koi nahi.
forward.
You have a panel good enough to
Yes, you guys are
let the
carrying on
people
really well. The support is all.
let the people ignore these logistical issues and concentrate on actual debate. Now coming back to Pratyush, your point, I would tell you that this is what the argument of Asauddin Owaisi on record was, that he stated that ये जब Article 15 पे problem आ रहा है ना, they are saying कि Article 15 discriminate कर रहा है just because I am a Muslim, तो मेरा property अलग से deal होगा. बाबा, why do you want to misguide the people of India? लैंड लॉ का डिस्प्यूट है तो लैंड लॉ कोर्ट तय करेगा, एंड वो तो सेक्युलर लॉ है.
But
फिर
Manush, the
अगर
problem is that it is not just a land law, right? The point that he was also trying to make is that this act in itself is so unique because it is dealing with two very different branches of law, right? And it is dealing
Exactly.
with freedoms as well as restrictions in a very unique way where there is sensationalized. There's a huge look. You can't deny that donating is an essential religious practice. But at the
है
same
बिल्कुल
time,
है.
law and laws not governing it is also a question. So that
But
is
देख
why Mr. Oasis'
देखो
point
देखो
can't be just
देखो
this
discarded.
type of
no no
donation
we are
is
not
not a particular
disregarding,
practice which is
we are
common
not
in all
we are not
religions.
disregarding also an essential religious practice. I don't know, because I think Quran so far has 5 arkan for a Muslim to follow. I don't know if waqf
Yes, it is
comes
not
under
part of
it or
that.
not.
It is not
If
part of
I
that.
Waqf
don't
is
know
According to
if
never
it
OAC, it
comes
is
explicitly
an
mentioned
essential
in the
religious practice,
Quran.
but it is not.
for
There are
him it
many
may be.
countries, there are many Muslim dominant countries which do not have the system of
Have
waqf.
they do not
But
have the
since
waqf
India has
provision
had
itself.
this tradition, it is important for
Huh,
protecting
it's a
the rights of the
traditional,
Muslims.
it's a traditional part.
I
It's a
don't think it's a
custom
and
that has
this
tradition, to be
evolved
very honest.
throughout.
and
I think it was
thanks
the
to the
Delhi land only.
lawmakers, thanks to the lawmakers who choose to codify it so as to bring it under the ambit of Article 13, जहाँ पे लॉस को आप चैलेंज कर सकते हो. वरना अगर कस्टम को कस्टम रहने दिया होता, तो ओविंग टू द डिक्टेट्स ऑफ नारसू अप्पा माली, वो ये बोलता है दैट कस्टम्स आर नॉट लॉस बिकॉज दे डू नॉट कम फ्रॉम द लेजिस्लेशन. दैट इज अ
Hmm.
प्रॉब्लम. So
Okay.
यहाँ पे distinction, Pratyush, you need to make when you ask this question, that even if it is a religious practice, donation is a religious practice. Is challenging a claim a religious practice? No,
Of course not.
it is a very
No,
secular. It is
no.
a very it is a remedy seeking practice coming out of the constitutional dictats and coming out of your civil laws. ठीक है.
Absolutely.
तो
Okay.
फिर
Okay.
अगर
Okay.
क्लेम सीक करना रिलीजियस नहीं
Manush,
है
we
तो
are
फिर
not on
बोर्ड कैसा
disagreement
भी हो.
here. We
Now
are
we will.
not in
Yes, we are
disagreement.
not. You are actually pointing out to the same point, but of the different coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get
Fair
my
enough.
point.
There is a difference. हाँ, हाथी एक
Yes.
है, बस अलग अलग parts
हाँ,
है.
अलग-अलग parts हैं.
Snake.
But yes, let's go to the concluding statement as of now. Go ahead, Ayush. We'll start with you.
Uh,
Yes. So one more point that I would like to add here is that in Parliament, DMK's Koni Mozi stated that this amendment is in direct violation of Article 30. So again, don't we think as people that it actually may even support Article 30? Again, here the purpose and the faith of the bill has to also be taken into consideration. We all understand from a political perspective that this is political appeasement of Hindus and it is a political move. But if you take it from a legislature perspective, don't we think that it would lead to a better and more transparent
This
implementation of the bill?
is a very
On
law
top of
student
that,
statement, to be very honest.
on top of that, if we talk about the repealment of compulsory acquisition of property 31, what role does it play here? Because that vested in a lot of powers to the central government taking in property for the sake of development. So that I think also is an important part which needs to be discussed in this context.
Done. Although Jani looks better when it's dark. I'll come back to the point that was mentioned by Ayush.
अरे गुनीत भैया took my hotel key card. Room से चले गए बाहर and now I'm in darkness.
Okay, Ayush, your point
Jani,
specifically.
it is a very
as a-
Batman core of you.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
doing this.
Let's-
You
let's
should
come back
not
to the
do
topic.
this.
I'm having
I'm
actually my debate on my phone, but I'll show you my phone cover. Wait.
Bhai,
I'll
don't.
fix my
Bhai,
phone
Oh
don't.
my god. No, not here.
There
Acha,
you
oh,
go.
nice. Okay,
ए
okay.
मेरा फोटो है क्या कवर में?
Guys, please
मेरा
don't show
photo
your
है।
rooms if possible. Okay, Ayush, coming back to your point, I think as a only non-law professional student panelist, I would say that your statement that judiciary will get to more transparency, actually, them not commenting on any other bills which are specifically connected to religion, asking legislative to point out upon them, is a fact that judiciary does not want to interfere in this particular. They have enough
No,
burden of work that they don't want to interfere in this.
no,
Right. So
but
that
that
actually
is
was
what I'm
a.
saying.
But
No,
I
no,
think
I'm not talking
it's your
about
personal
the.
bias when it comes to
No,
judiciary
no, no,
being
no, no.
involved.
See,
No problem.
this is the
Let's
thing.
not
I
counter on
think
this.
Sneh, you misinterpreted my statement here. I think I have the right to clarify. You
Okay.
thought that I was talking about the involvement of judiciary, but I was saying that we need to go into the depths of legislature here rather than talking about politics as we call it. And also one more question that I added was about the repealment of 31 compulsory acquisition of property in which the government could take the property in the name of development. So those were the
But
two things that I stated.
see, property, as is stated by Pratyush, property and religion are the two matter which are very much in coherence in this particular matter. So it cannot be
Of course,
interchanged,
yes,
right?
they are.
But yeah, I think I agree, but disagree to your point. I think
No worries.
let's sum it up whatever we have discussed. Okay, we have discussed about the collector points. We have discussed about the deed and computation point. We have discussed the women and non-Muslim point. We have discussed the CAG point. We have discussed the government property point. We have discussed the 90 days notice point. So we have covered all the top six as well as eight amendments that were done in the bill. We'll go to Devesh for the concluding statement next.
Snake. Okay, yeah. So I've been meaning to talk about this, right? So whenever we've been talking about quite a lot of constitutional provisions and concepts and dictats as well, but primarily whenever you choose to interpret any sort of a constitutional provision, you look at the CADs. Okay, and I would like to bring forth this really important aspect that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar talked about. As you know, the state, the duty of the state is solely and solely to its citizens and no one else. Quite literally, there is a two-way relationship from between the citizen and the state. However, the relation between, and it is also a public relationship. Matlab, it's not just two-way in the sense that it's me and the state. There are stakeholders as well in between.
Hmm.
Okay. On the other hand, a religious relationship, the state does not have a relationship with the religion as far as as far as the common law of India is concerned. But when you look at the relationship religion and a man has, it is one of the most private relationships that one can think of. So much so that even religious relationship come under the ambit of right to privacy. So when you look at all sorts of religious law, they are intrinsic and closed up into the nature. So much so that if I am a Hindu and if I am exercising some right I have under Hindu law, it is something of my own private capacity rather than a public act.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, to put this forth, what I'm trying to say is the involvement. This is how I'm trying to create a nexus between the bureaucracy point. This is why I believe bureaucracy should not be involved because religion is a private matter. And whenever you look at a private matter and someone who's holding a public office, mind the word public office, you may not try to interfere in this because the person holding the public office might not even have the
Hmm.
competency to understand what kind of the
Hmm.
nuances and nitty-gritties are going to be applicable in this case. It has to be looked at a case-to-case scenario, and I think a collector will be able to do a fantastic job with respect to looking at it from
Okay.
a
A very
case-to-case
short
basis.
question, which needs a very
Devesh,
short answer. Who
Devesh,
better? Who
I have
better
a
than a
question.
collector? A very short, sir.
Just a minute.
We'll address the
I'll
question
try to
later
answer.
on. Very short
Okay, fair
answer
enough.
to the question: Who better than a collector? All of them.
Okay.
Yes.
What I believe, instead of a collector, you need to have, let's say, a distinguished, someone who is a distinguished person in, let's say, Muslim law jurisprudence,
Okay.
or maybe someone who has the
Religious
knowledge
representative and
and
vessel Muslim law.
some sort of a state-based authority by the
Okay.
virtue of
So
presence.
Okay.
I
Any
think a
other answers?
retired, yeah, I think a retired judge, a retired magistrate, someone
Okay.
from that area, someone. Look, I think there is a need to create a new authority here. The
He has
very
been
Exactly,
given
pressing
in the
need to
place in
do
the
that.
board.
exactly,
Okay. Okay.
exactly.
Any other answer?
And also
Yes,
adding to
Dhruval. Go
Devesh
ahead.
Bhaiya's
Just
point.
a second, Ayush.
Acha.
Dhruval, go ahead.
Okay, no worries.
So, like when we are talking about this, the collector in the board, the section 91, 1.
Sir, just answer to the question that who better as of now. We'll
So,
come to your
when we talk
concluding
about who
point later.
better, we can, as Pratyush said, we can have a retired judge.
Okay.
We can
You
have any other person or authority competent by the law.
okay? Ayush, you have any other answer? Quick, quick. Ayush, you are mute. So sorry.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, quick answer.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So again, as added by Pratyush and Dhruval, I think they have to be competent legal figures that have already been retired. As previously stated in the bill, members of parliament and members of
Done.
other
Done.
political or executive members are added in the bill, which is not the right thing to do, as we understand that members from both the parties could use this in the wrong way
Done.
for the sake of political
Okay.
appeasement.
Okay,
from both the
perfect.
sides.
Wait,
Perfect.
Sneh,
Okay.
I think I have something really, really important to add on
Go
to
ahead,
it. I just
please.
thought of it. Okay, it
Try
just
to keep
popped
it
up into
crisp.
my mind. I forgot the name of the justice, but this specific justice from the Indore High Court, recently retired and joined the RSS. Lately, this very concept has
Yes.
been really criticized, especially with
Yeah.
respect to
Hmm.
Ranjan Gogoi. So,
Hmm.
the political affiliation of members of the judiciary,
Yes.
while they serve their term and post their retirement, is something really questionable. So the involvement of a retired juridical officer is in contemporary very questionable, and I think it will worsen in the future. So to look at it from this aspect of just a retired jurist is something really, really problematic, administratively speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree to this
Can
point
I
very well. Very well.
can I deliver my
Yes, yes, sir.
conclusive?
Yes, conclusion now, please.
Yeah,
Quick.
concluding, I think I'm just going to counter one point that Devesh said about religion being private and government bureaucracy being a public. The point is not whether they are looking at, the question is on what subject matter is the public actually intervening, and the subject matter here is something of land, which is at the end of the day, as Manush said, quite a secular one. Now, I would also like to conclude by looking at my opening remarks, which were on the sensationalization and the context. Now, the context is that in the last, say, 5 years, there's been a lot of state scrutinization into Muslim law, Muslim
Yes.
rights,
Okay.
and Muslim identity.
Okay.
Say CAA, take one CAA NRC. Then, second, let us look at the Aligarh Muslim University issue. Then, third, let us look at the hijab student ban.
Yes.
Then, over on top, there is an intervention on Waqf as well.
So the
On Waqf as
state
well.
interference of I had the same
so
counter to that.
so there are these, so there's a timeline, right, where one by one there are different aspects of Muslim life that are being, if not
Hmm.
attacked, that are being encroached upon.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
if
Yes.
there is an outrage that we are seeing, we can't just dismiss it sitting here and be like, oh no, no, it's a secular law. It's not. You look at the context of it, and you will find out that it might not be as secular and one off as we think.
Yes, I agree with this point. State obviously has some major bias. We'll
Sneh,
come
Sneh,
to the
Sneh,
remarks later on, sir. Please.
Sneh.
We need
Can
to
I just
address Dhruville's conclusion
okay,
Hello,
remarks.
okay,
So
okay.
am
sorry.
I audible?
Yes, you're audible,
Yes.
sir.
Am I
Yes, you
audible?
are.
Yes,
Yes,
you're
yes,
audible
yes.
now,
Yes.
sir.
So, just a suggestion regarding the district collector's authority regarding the disputes. What previously was the provision with regards to tribunals under Section 85 was that there was supposed to be a person who was an expert in Muslim jurisprudence in the tribunal. Now that position has been removed, which I don't think should happen, because that person in Muslim law jurisprudence who is an expert in that should be there in order to adjudicate upon issues regarding Muslim law. So,
Okay,
along with
okay,
the
okay.
director in a completely different issue, I think that to complement the collector, there should be a person who is an expert in Muslim law jurisprudence to complement the director in the collector in the decision making.
Done. Okay. No
Was
other
that?
points now. We'll only
Yeah,
address Dhruville's conclusion now. Go ahead, Dhruville. So sorry.
yeah. So my
Thank you.
concluding
So,
remarks after Dhruval, if possible.
Yes. Okay.
there was
Yes,
an
Dhruville.
argument saying that the um, amendment bill goes against the Article 30 of the Constitution. Article 30 of the
Hmm.
Constitution gives the power to establish and administer educational institution. Work board is nowhere or near to an educational institution. It funds
No.
and helps the education institution. So it's not directly an education institution. And when we are saying that it is not a secular law, we should take side by side the HRC and Work Act. When we are taking funds from the Hindu temples on one side, and the Section 8 of the last act stated that the survey of the work should be funded by the government. So when we are giving funds to the board, and when on one side we are taking funds from another temples, how can this be a good secular principle?
As it is said,
And,
minority.
Sneh,
uh,
Sneh.
and other
Sneh,
thing
Sir,
just
sir,
that
no concluding other remarks, sir. Please.
just a
Sorry,
small,
Ayush.
just a small,
Yes,
just
go
a
ahead,
small.
sir.
My concluding remark. Excuse. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Just a
Like
short
yes,
concluding
yes.
remark. Yes. So
Okay.
the entire
Done.
discussion.
Go ahead.
Yes. So the entire discussion, I think, was centered around 2 points on which we largely agree upon. It's that, firstly, the reason why this bill was brought about was because there were these allegations that the Waqf board was encroaching upon properties of different people. And secondly, the opportunity or the right of the Muslims to donate their property in the name of Allah for a righteous or pious purpose. I think that this bill deals with the latter provision, which is the more important which covers the more important legislative intent of the bill. And other than that, we have discussed about different provisions regarding the appointment in the Waqf boards as well as the Central Waqf Council, the composition of the tribunals, the appealability. So I think that this is a very welcome provision which was much needed. Any law
Okay.
which you pass needs to
Okay.
evolve with time, be it the Consumer Protection Act, be it the Motor Vehicle Act, or be it any act.
Very
It
good
needs a
conclusion,
review
Imam.
over time, and I think this is the right time to
Very
review
good
it,
conclusion, Imam.
whatever
Go
the
ahead, Manoj.
underhanded political
Sir,
benefits
go
might
ahead,
be.
Manoj bhai.
So
Your conclusion remarks, keep it,
also,
try
please
to
don't
keep it.
hold any of these views against me. This is a
No,
very
no, sir.
controversial
They are
topic.
very
I
good views.
understand.
Don't worry.
Nah, nah. So this is a
Sir,
public
considering the
forum, so I had to
government, they are very
clarify.
good views. Don't worry. Please, Manoj bhai, your closing
Yeah,
remarks.
closing remarks. Basically, if we talk about authority, I'll try to answer the questions. Authority, collector is the best authority because survey commissioner का जो आपका ambit हट गया है, it has made very much clear that a collector knows data interpretation, and then judging and having applying a judicial mind over the data. इसकी वजह से डिसीजन मेकिंग में बहुत स्मूथनेस आएगा बिकॉज
Okay.
द कलेक्टर हिमसेल्फ इज कलेक्टिंग द डेटा डूइंग द सर्वे हिमसेल्फ और
Hmm.
फिर उस पे वो एक्शन खुद ही ले रहा है ठीक
Yes.
है
Okay.
प्लस वन religion a private affair devesh of course it can be a private affair but when you take religion to the courts it does not religion even if the matter is religious in its genesis but if it is taken to the court it becomes right in rem because it affects the public policy it is no more right in personam right in rem if it affects public policy
Please
government
conclude.
again is empowered एज अ पब्लिक ऑर्डर को बचाने के लिए सो एज टू प्रिजर्व इट द गवर्नमेंट इज एम्पावर्ड इनफ टू पुट योर रेस्ट्रिक्शन ओवर योर राइट दैट्स द थिंग दैट
Hmm.
यू नीड टू पुट
Okay.
okay these are the two things that needs to be very much clarified.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
can I
All
just
right.
clarify one thing?
Guys. No counter as of now. Let's
It's
address
not
the
a counter.
chat
I just
first.
need to clarify one point,
Snake.
please.
Hey, bhai, Ayush, please. Go ahead. Sir,
Okay.
very
Okay,
short
okay.
clarification.
Yeah,
Let's go
it's quite
address the
short.
chat now.
So just to specify, my point was regarding the word public being used in that argument, right? So whenever you talk about public, does the public have a right to interfere between me and my religion? No. Okay, because it's my personal right, and the public, it's also comes under the question of the ambit of how much my privacy is. The state has the right to interfere in my privacy with respect to certain applications, but then that comes under the ambit of 26 or and 25 as well. Can the state interfere between my in my religious affairs? The three parameters
Okay.
है public order
Okay.
morality. Public order के अंदर बहुत weak interpretations आते हैं, and when you take it to a juridical process, that's a different thing altogether, because a
Gotcha.
juridical process is public policy altogether. A state and a juridical body doing it are very
devesh
different things. That is what I mean.
Sir,
devesh
no counter.
encroachment
Please.
is a
Okay,
public
guys,
policy
guys,
threat
guys, let's go to the questions. I
encroachment
think
is
they
a
are very
public policy
important.
threat
Chat, start rolling questions inside. ठीक है, we'll
चलो
take the
चलो
earlier questions that were imposed.
क्वेश्चंस पे क्वेश्चंस
And sir, question जो भी मैं ला रहा हूँ,
Okay, damn.
कोई एक इंसान उसके ऊपर आंसर करेगा, सब आंसर करने की कोशिश ना करे. हम चूज कर लेंगे कौन आंसर करेगा. ठीक है, बहुत सारी चीजें हमने एड्रेस करी है, and it is a very good in terms of substance. ठीक है, let's address this question first. If there should be an absence of secularism in religious administration, then why HRCED was implemented without the consultation of Hindu religious institution and leaders? Something that was addressed by
Okay.
Dhruval.
I
Answer to
think
this particular question.
I think
quick.
I would address this very
Yes.
quickly. See, HRC का जो बात है और अगर आप रिप्रेजेंटेशन की बात कर रहे हो ना दैट विच क्यों स्टेक होल्डर्स से बात नहीं की यू टेल मी डज हिंदुइज्म एज अ कॉन्सेप्ट हैव अ पावर ऑफ single or a definite number of
Yes.
stakeholders that needs to be
There are
put
no
into
stakeholders.
who is a stakeholder hinduism is an anarchic culture where you are free to believe what god and what stakeholder you want to go to there is no
पांच
definite
शंकराचार्य एक
power
दूसरे से लड़ रहे हैं, वो पांच
of
शंकराचार्य
course
किसी और साथ लड़
exactly
रहे हैं, चार
exactly
धाम
so
वाले एक
किस
दूसरे के साथ
stakeholder
agree
को
नहीं करते. I
बिठाओगे
agree.
किस
Very good.
stakeholder को बिठाओगे
Also, I think
But that
just
does not
one more
justify
thing.
the argument that there should not be a stakeholder. There should have been a
Exactly.
stakeholder in that particular sense.
but
Also,
then
one
It's a
more
very
thing. This
draconian act.
question, no, this other question, this question only. I think in the context of what we're talking about, this question, the existence of this question itself is proof of what I was talking about. This the sensationalization aside, look, that's a false equivalency, right? You can't have, oh look, this is in one religion, this is a law, oh in this religion this is a law, and so let's compare them and let us see which one is better, and oh this one is more oppressive than this one. They're two different
That should
religions.
not happen. Yes.
That is, this is a question which is not appropriate for this
Yes.
meeting.
One needs to be
And
addressed, one needs to be solved. As simple as that.
exactly, and I
Also,
agree with the question.
Yeah.
There is the point is here, the point is, Pratyush, when we talk about HRC, it talks about taxing and collection of revenues, while other talks about land laws and governing of
But
disputable
sir,
claims on
the
work
problem
lands.
with the Hindu side, it doesn't happen on the other side. That's simple.
Yeah, so
Actually, it
I'm
reaches
saying
to
the
the
But
other
other
side.
then
side,
Right.
The problem with
It's
the
a valid
phrasing
issue, I
is
think.
the problem with the phrasing. I'm sorry. The problem with the phrasing is what you use, the other side. These are no two sides of a
No other
coin.
side. I understand.
These are on the same plane.
But
So you can't say,
when it
"Arey
comes to the
mere
current
paas right
scenario,
nahi
I
hai."
don't believe in saying that okay, they are not other side. I'm not that in terms of morality. I'm not that aligned. I say
no,
that there is
no,
one side, and they consider it as other side. So when I'm talking about the devil's advocate, I represent them as other side. It should not, but I think
panel.
it is a situation right now.
We need to make it very clear. अगर सब्जेक्ट मैटर्स डिफरेंट है तो भले ही रिलीजियस बात आ जाता है, you'll have to deal it with differently.
Okay.
Also, yeah. So this
Before that,
concept of
okay. Before that,
secularism,
huh?
yeah. Go ahead.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
address this stupidity. I'm not addressing to this particular question or the person imposing this question. It should not be dissolved because they are the third largest owner. If we even repeal it as a whole, privatization, वो सारा का सारा वो justify कर देंगे at till the end. So it should not be repealed at all. Amendment is the best option and the only option available.
Sneh. I would also like to add another point to it. On Devesh saying that it is a private matter, who are we to tell someone that they cannot donate their property
Not
to
that.
their religion? So
Yes,
that is all I'm
exactly.
saying. If you can donate your property, make a temple, right?
They should
Then
donate,
See,
and it
there is
should
a
be
certain
regulated.
recourse in a
Pratyush,
different religion. So I'm saying
Pratyush,
that the
Pratyush, one thing. You donate as much as property you want to donate, but the principle of transfer of property goes, you cannot donate a better title than you own. If you don't have the title to the property, how can you donate the
I
title of the
agree.
property?
I am
That's
not
the whole
saying
point.
no. I'm
So
not
the
saying no. I am
dispute,
saying the concept. The
but the
concept I am
dispute
in
lies
favor of.
around if you own the title
This
or not.
this
Sir,
actually
dispute does lie around, but it
this
should not.
actually
That is
brings
Pratyush's point.
about
It should not
and
lie around that.
so this brings about yes. So this brings about a very interesting concept of jurisprudence that I would like to address, which is that of just possessionis and just possidendi. Just possessionis means the right to possess a particular property, and just possessiondi means the person who has a better claim over that title. So we need to understand the differentiation between a better claim.
Okay. Chat, if there is anything that is left, प्लीज एड्रेस दिस इन योर क्वेश्चन. ठीक है, कुछ ऐसा लगा कि आप लोगों ने हम लोगों ने छोड़ दिया, ये हमने एड्रेस नहीं किया, आप उस पर क्वेश्चन पूछे हमें ताकि हम उसको एड्रेस कर सके. बट आई थिंक बहुत सारी चीजें हमने एड्रेस कर दी है. बहुत डाइवर्स डिस्कशन गया, इन डेप्थ बहुत जगह पे जा चुके, बहुत जगह पे नहीं जा चुके. बट शुड वी इम्पोज लास्ट क्वेश्चन और शुड वी जस्ट एंड?
There are two questions that I think we should address.
I have one question, one solid
There is
question.
one I want to address.
Okay.
Okay, so there's
तो ठीक है,
one
चलो सब
question.
इंटरेस्टेड ही है तो बस एक क्वेश्चन में डाल देता हूँ, ठीक है,
So-
बिफोर एनीबॉडी एल्स इम्पोजेस.
हाँ, please.
सो ओवेसी साहब इज कंटिन्यूअसली सेइंग कि जो आप रिटर्न प्रूफ मांग रहे हो, तो हम मस्जिद का प्रूफ कैसे देंगे? Where everybody understand, whoever understand politics, we all know he is pointing out to the Krishna Janmabhoomi, Gyan Vapi and all of the point. He just don't want to address it openly. So what does the Places of Worship Act plays a role in the WAQF and the current amendment? That is my question. What does Places of Worship Act play as a role in this WAQF amendment?
Can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so when you look at Muslim, any Muslim place of worship, primarily a masjid, you need to understand the
Shiv,
obiter dictum.
so sorry to interrupt. Shiv, please mute yourself if possible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Yes,
we need to
Devesh.
understand the obiter dictum given in the Ram Lala case. Okay, the most important part is a masjid a place of worship? That is the most important question. It is not. A Muslim can pray wherever they want, but for a Hindu to pray, you cannot just stand on the street and just start praying. You need to go to a temple, you need to have an idol, you need to have a specific setup. Okay, so the definition of a
Uh,
place of worship does not even apply to a masjid for it to be
depends on
considered.
interpretation, I would say.
Yeah, no, no, that's an orbiter given in the
I don't think
Ramayana.
so, sir. As much as Muslim has a corner for a namaz in a particular direction for a namaz, similar to the Hindu having a particular corner in their home for having. So, if depends on how you interpret
No,
the
no, it's not
system, as
about
well
your
as the Hindu
interpretation.
practices are such lenient now that they can only pray in a particular area. Whereas it
Huh.
comes to Muslim, they can pray in particular direction.
Exactly.
It
No,
is
no, wait.
up to interpretation. It
I'll
cannot be
just
interpreted in
clarify
that
one thing,
particular
Sneh,
sense.
about that. I'll just clarify one thing. So that direction has to be faced towards the Kaaba. That's as simple as that. Okay.
Yes.
हिंदू में for every god you have a specification कि इस direction में पूर्व पश्चिम जो भी है उस हिसाब से आपको temple idol रखना होता है.
हाँ.
But the most important thing is the presence of the idol, and the presence of the idol has to be in a
Okay.
place जो
Good
मंदिर बन
point.
जाता है by
Good
the
point.
definition of it.
यार
Okay.
ये मॉडरेटर का कुछ अलग होता है क्या? मैं अचानक से लेफ्ट की तरफ क्यों जा रहा हूँ?
हाँ.
मेरे को पता था इसका आंसर, फिर भी मैंने एक क्वेश्चन पूछा.
No, also there's one more question, which is if who can represent all the interests of Hindus, right? On the question of representation of Hindus on the HRC wala thing, I just want to say that we are so diverse as a religion in Hinduism that the problem is it's much different compared to the members of the Waqf board, which is next to it, right? The question is saying, okay, you know what, I think I'm confused a little in between the
No
three
problem,
guys.
sir. It was an earlier question, that's why
address
you
the
might be.
previous question. I'll address the previous question once with regards to Mr. Ovesi's
Quickly, sir.
argument.
Quickly.
So when we talk about a particular place which is being designated as a place of worship, for example, if a mosque is, for example, not recognized, then the section 4 of this particular act, or even the previous act for that matter, has a surveyor that is appointed under the act, and that surveyor has the power to ascertain whether that place is of religious importance for the Muslims or not. So that is a
ठीक है.
provision that has remained consistent in both the legislation. So
ठीक है.
it has not
ठीक
been
है.
amended. So
चलो
the
चलो,
powers of the
मानुष भाई
surveyors
का
are
पैरासिटामोल
intact.
चल रहा है अभी. ठीक है. Let's
एक
conclude.
one more
Let's
thing, one
end
more
the
thing,
particular
Sneh,
debate
Sneh.
as soon as
End
possible.
it.
Sneh,
हाँ हाँ
Sneh,
भाई.
one more
भाई
thing.
भाई
Fair enough.
बहुत सारी
one-
चीजें एड्रेस करने के लिए we cannot address it in one
Sneh,
video.
one more
Sorry.
thing,
one more
I
thing.
have to
Really
go.
sorry.
Pratyush.
नहीं नहीं भाई खत्म.
See,
अब नहीं वक्त
नहीं
की
नहीं,
बात ही
last
नहीं करनी.
point, Sneh
भाड़ में
भाई,
गया
last
वक्त.
point. Last point.
अब जेपीसी
नहीं,
डिसाइड करे,
places
हम
of
कुछ
worship.
करेंगे नहीं इस पे.
अब
मैं
Places
तेरे
of
को
worship.
म्यूट कर
I'll
दूंगा.
I'll to JPC
I
में
will
भेजो.
mute you. I will mute you.
Places. See,
Sneh
Sneh.
has had
One
enough,
more thing
but-
that we.
Arbitrary power usage.
I am muting you.
Nee.
No
It's
discussion on
been
it now.
muted. Okay, guys, it's been
No.
a pleasure being here, Sneh.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This
Oh, it was
platform
such
is
an amazing exchange of
fantastic.
ideas. This was so
This
good.
Bro,
platform is fantastic.
One more
and
point.
I
I think you'll love
congratulate
it.
you.
I don't want
Pratyush.
to.
Ayush, please.
If
I
it is
think,
about
I
WAQF,
think
I am.
we are-
Huh. If it is about WAQF, I am muting you.
No, okay.
Sneh,
okay.
Sneh.
So,
Sneh. One more
No,
last
just
point.
generally
Last point.
commenting that this was a much needed
Sneh,
discussion, and
please,
if this
yeah.
discussion
yes,
happens
yes.
on different
And
fora,
Sneh, I congratulate
then
you for
that
providing.
is what will bring concrete change in
Thank
the
you so
country.
much. Thank you so much.
These kind of
I
discourses should
congratulate you
happen.
for bringing this platform to
Thank you so much,
us
sir.
and for this
Oh, the
opportunity to
feelings mutual.
contribute. Thank you. I think we should let
आयुष
Ayush
कुछ नहीं
also
मिल
go.
रहा
I also need
आयुष
to
कुछ
go.
नहीं मिल रहा
It's
तेरे
been a
को.
pleasure. Thank
हाँ
you
भाई,
so much.
बहुत मजा आया भाई. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर अटेंडिंग. ये सब भाई आप लोग
Of
आए, मेरे को
course.
बहुत मजा आया. फॉरएवर बी ग्रेटफुल फॉर यू गाइस अटेंडिंग दिस. फॉरएवर
No,
बी.
actually, in
100%.
fact,
you so
Keep
much.
calling us. We should be forever
yeah,
grateful.
Exactly,
in
exactly.
fact,
This
it
is
would be
such a
more
lovely.
of a.
I get.
Credit goes to Sneh as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, of
Sneh
course,
bhai.
of course.
ठीक
All
है.
of
Very
us are
अरे भाई
at
छोड़ो.
different corners of the nation. I am in Raipur, somebody is in Gujarat, somebody is wherever. Okay.
Hey guys,
It's
I had one question
इसको अनम्यूट किसने किया?
regarding the places of worship. Act.
इसको अनम्यूट
No,
किसने
no,
किया?
Places of worship. Act.
भाड़
I
में
had
जा तू.
one
मैं
question.
छोड़ रहा हूँ भाई. ये कोई नहीं
भाई,
आएगा.
Okay, Sneh, तुझे जाना है तो जा.
I think
One question.
I need
One
to
question,
go.
one
I
question.
need to run, so I think
Yes,
I'll
yes,
see you
we all
later,
need to.
ठीक है?
हम लोग
Let's
तो
go, brother.
जिला
Thank you
बड़ा
so
RB
much for
it's
being
lovely
here.
so
talking
much.
to you, Pratyush.
देखो
Thank you so much, guys, for being here. ठीक है.
ये विनय
Vinay
भैया.
bhai, thank you so much for promoting that in the S1 group.
विनय
Thank you
भैया
so much.
मुझे इग्नोर कर रहा है इसने.
Shout out to
And
Prathamesh
so,
Bhaiya for sending
so,
the link in the group. Thank you so much, guys.
Arey, Sneh,
Ah,
you already
Shout
have
out to
this
Prathamesh
demand.
Bhaiya.
You
Prathamesh
already
Bhaiya
have
बोल
this
दिया.
demand.
Hello.
No,
चलो
Shout out to
thank you so much, Prathamesh. Yes,
प्रथमेश
प्रथम
Manush
भाई
भाई
is
के
saying
आगे
something. Bhai,
बोल
एक
सकते
second.
हैं.
कम करो आवाज. Sorry, Manush bhai.
Sneh,
Yes.
Sneh,
हाँ.
you already have a few suggestions which say that next debate needs to be single committee on interest of all Hindus and everything. So then there needs to be some sort of Hindu stakeholders who know Hinduism better
हाँ.
than us. So
हाँ.
I mean, I am not that well equipped to represent all of the interest of Hindus and everything.
Okay.
So yeah,
Exactly, exactly. And
considering
I
the
would
fact
like to
that
take
it
this moment to apologize on this channel for any sort of mistake that I might
exactly
have made in
yeah
this debate.
अरे nobody has
So,
done anything.
apology
मजे
for
करो.
that.
तुम्हारा ही चैनल है, मजे करो भाई. चलो फिर
हाँ,
ठीक है.
मजे
We'll
ठीक
leave
है
now.
but yeah.
We'll end the live chat. Thank you so much for attending. Keep
Thank
showing
you so much,
support.
Sneh. Thank
Go
you
ahead
so
to
much.
everything.
थैंक यू
Check out
स्नेह
our
भाई.
products if you like it. Go ahead and do
Oh, the
subscribe to the
flask was
channel.
amazing. The flask was amazing.
Thank you so much.
एवरीथिंग
Thank you so
फ्लास्क
much.
मैन.
Thank you
पीस
so
ऑफ
much.
आर्ट.
चलो चलो अब मैं बस
Yeah.
स्ट्रीम एंड कर देता हूँ. हाँ ठीक है.
स्नेह
चलो.
पेमेंट